Yeah, so like my Indian specifically my experience person right now with like Runner and his team on the way to like basically catch up 11. I'm just saying it wouldn't just be 11 alone that Runner and team will be capturing, but also like Mike when Runner and his team like they will be like especially like that other person team member of that like he will be like especially telling Runner like the first location as for like the current location where like 11 is present in society being like so renderment and specifying like society like the scenario to be like especially with like Nancy and Jonathan right now in like the station and specifying definitely Nancy and Mike like parents will be along with Mike little sister as well will be would have gone to like the station like to bring Nancy back. It's definitely necessary for you. So like while they will be away and specifying that would be like the best time when like and when like run team will be showing up to like next so like at that point I was like run up and this team straight away trying to like catch up 11 and 11 using her superpower. So like I was like this fight between like 11 and like Brunner like team members like happening into of like Michael Jones like the scenario that I'm about to bring. So like I'm also trying like right then like I'm also trying like the scenario to be that Brenner might have only foreseen such a scenario and Brenner by now might have only figured that like 11 is friends for these kids like Mike Nicholson. So like I'm also trying like at that point like I'm also trying like while the fight will be taking place like Mike Lucas and Dustin Mike and Dustin would be definitely in like Mike's phone. So definitely, while this 11 would be focused on like totally focused on attacking Pranav like team member like a person one of like Pranav's team member and the other one like would be like stealthily capturing Mike of like something or like a person like into like pointing weapon on like capture and take Mike or the thing like a hostage and point the weapon on Mike. So like at that point most likely on mic. And at that point, I'm also from that everyone quickly stopping attack. At that point, it's like the scenario that I'm working with. Because like Mike would be in danger at that point. And at that point, I'm also like but enough telling 11 that actually if you quietly come with us, then like we'll let Mike and the thing go. Uh, we won't have Mike and the if 11 does comes along with us. You'll be along the lines for another saying. And so like at that point, I'm also like 11 feeling as if like 11 has no other choice but to like listen to like Puranar and that way like 11 going solely to like save Mike like on the and like 11 solely and 11 would be feeling as like he has no other choice but to like cross his Puranar so like on the thing like at that point 11 only dropping Puranar and 11 only going along with Puranar but like right as like Puranar would be like taking 11 in this like car and really that car will be leaving like right then itself like going like in another car like the remaining of foreigners team like showing up and basically arresting specifically capturing like Mike and Buster and like taking them as well in another car. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And since it's like broad daylight type of like foreigners team member most likely showing up disguised as like state uh, police officer definitely not different. That would be the flip side. So like I'm looking like since it's like broad daylight, I'm looking especially for like the neighbor people from like the neighborhood like gathering around them. So like I'm looking like one of team members showing up in like the state's police officer uniform disguise and like them saying that them just basically saying that like we are arresting we are taking them for like questioning and along this lines in like a conventional manner and they basically taking like Mike and Dustin. And Mike and Dustin won't be able to like even before like Mike and Dustin won't would be able to like say anything like about it and then quickly uh like uh pushing and shoving like Mike and Dustin quickly into the car. It's like the scenario and taking Mike and Dustin away quickly. It's like the scenario that I'm going bring and then and I was bringing all this to happen precisely before Mike's like parents and Nancy like all of them would be like returned back before they will be returned back from like the station and all this should happen. So like I'm then like I was doing like the car straight away that would be taking 11 to like and I'll be like the another car that would be like I'm looking for like in another car like definitely Mike and Dustin as well being taken into like another rubber like the scenario that and those And my tutorial pressures are like as Lucas will be still on top of like that tree with like the binoculars like assessing like random energy laboratory building like right before Lucas would be like thinking of like basically leaving and heading back home like like Lucas hearing like the sound of like vehicles like and at that point Lucas and basically totally seeing like this like very same van and at that point, I'm looking like for Lucas to see that very same vans that Lucas had seen with like the binoculars leaving the front of the laboratory, like returning back and basically like from like the first van and the open like Lucas totally this binoculars seeing that the mysterious stuff it's only definitely runner and things like leaving from that van and basically by holding on to that 11 like the scenario that I was in. So like Lucas at that point being stopped. So like Lucas openly seeing like 11 and Pranav like walking into like Pranav and the level with like the scenario that I was recording. So like at that point I was bringing like Lucas feeling even more prestigious of like 11 as for like 11 having some sort of like a secret connection uh which like which they are not aware of and all that like at that point like Lucas will be like feeling even more enraged towards like 11 being like and feeling as if like 11 like such an absolute traitor but like I'm the like rise and felt like within a few minutes after like 11 and runner will be enriched runners and the level and like another van to like show up and from that van like Mike as well as like Sustin being dragged into like runners and the laboratory is like that scenario by like runners like people is like the scenario that was recording. And Lucas at that point being so extremely shocked with like the scenario that I was giving him. At that point, I'm basically like Lucas totally like totally straight away assuming that basically like basically that it might totally like might and something getting into trouble might totally have to maybe do with like relevance maybe being like a traitor the ultimate traitor and basically like betray Mike and Dustin might be like the reason for like Mike and Dustin right now getting into such trouble. And ending up in this like speakers like energy laboratory would be along the lines Lucas will be only straight away assuming through after seeing for that through like the binoculars like the scenario that I'm doing and because it's only due to like 11 like would be like when Sullivan would be stepping out of sector one along with Brenner and entering Brenner's laboratory, which like Lucas was sitting at that point, like 11 body language, like I was definitely Lucas noticing that basically 11 is not being dragged into Brenner's energy laboratory. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. Solid, and that was solely due to that 11 being so genuinely concerned for like my like when being that like I was like though in 11 would be so extremely scared of entering back into like the entrepreneurs like an available prescription like ambassador still 11 would be like not pulling back, not trying to like people like runner not having direct struggle and 11 but like 11 walking along with like 11 runners into like runners and available with like the scenario that ended with. So Lucas seeing this would be totally feeling as if like that like 11 like is like that absolute traitor, which is like the scenario that I'm looking. So or after like seeing Mike as well as like Dustin getting dragged into the National Energy Laboratory, the different that most likely like Lucas deciding to like basically infiltrate into Pranav Energy Laboratory just to like save Mike and Dustin that very night is like the scenario that I'm looking. I'm definitely putting like Lucas not straight away trying to like infiltrate into like Brennan's energy laboratory, but like the scenario that I'm looking is for like Lucas to like straight away at that point, after seeing all this, like Lucas deciding to like head back home and basically to like with the whole mission to like infiltrate into like Brennan's energy laboratory and save Mike and Dustin like with that mission in like at that point it would be in like Lucas' mind like I'm looking like this deciding to like head back home and basically get prepared like prepare for like this like infiltration which will be like, most likely happening during night time that he would Lucas will be attempting to like infiltrate the Brennan's energy laboratory. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. So like once it's like nighttime, I'm was doing Lucas to like safely sneak out of the like home and basically Lucas making it using something using like the like Lucas and making it all do it. Or like Lucas would be like only remembering like the way. So like anyway, like at night, like I'm doing definitely Lucas finally making it once again to like Brenner's energy laboratory and spend like I'm looking like Lucas like totally, and I'm looking like Lucas to like totally go around like the fence into like seeing like the main entrance area, main entrance gate to like Brenner's Energy Laboratory, and I'm looking like Lucas in like the middle of the night, like secretly successfully infiltrating through into like Brenner's Energy Laboratory through like the main gate, where like all the vehicles pass into Brenner's Energy Laboratory. Definitely remember the impression. Lucas is stealthily managing to like sneak in past that main gate, and then Lucas successfully making it infiltrating into like Brenner's Energy Laboratory. Into even through the one of like the doors that Lucas entering into like Brenner's Energy Laboratory, like the scenario that I was looking at. Actually, I'm delivering Lucas totally getting lucky with like lucky at that point, but like basically the precise person in charge of like monitoring like the CCTV in that precise area where like Lucas would be interrogating would be like coincidentally just by sheer luck of Lucas like he would be like totally feeling falling asleep or like feeling drowsy and like or like he would be either asleep or like he would be like like temporarily not be like present. I think he would have temporarily just got up and just walked around for a bit when like Lucas would be like precisely like integrating into like chromosomal data public. So like just that brief moment that like that person monitoring like the CCTV in that area would be away. That would be like the precise point where luckily for Lucas, like Lucas would be integrating into like chromosomal data public. It's like the scenario that I'm listening to the program of the but still matter to represent that since like almost like the entirety of like the indoors of like energy laboratory as well would be like CCTV monitor and those different definitely even though but like just to like proceed into like infiltration and entering indoors into like energy laboratory still as Lucas would be trying to like find his way and basically trying to like find Mike Lucas and Dustin like like before Lucas would be making it to the precise or like finding like the room where like Mike and Dustin would be in person like even before that and like through the CCTV someone else like only seeing the infiltration of like Lucas and basically capturing Lucas like because as the tournament delay getting captured and like emphasis on like Lucas being put into taken away and put into like the same room in which like Mike and Dustin would be like imprisoned in and would be like getting interrogated. That's definitely my contribution. So because that way ending up there along with like Mike and Dustin with like the scenario that I'm position. Yet like I'm position like after that like I'm position like and I'm position like during like the interrogation like then being forced to like basically reveal everything they know. That's definitely my contribution. Like runner like basically sharing my criticism and that's it. To the point where like I'm position maybe even though Mike not reveal anything like I'm position definitely Dustin revealing everything until that point is like the scenario because like Dustin was it of this like my good friend. So like the source and I'm thinking about the mention that like unlike in Benny's case like is me where like Abraham has actually taken the life of Benny like it's the case of like Mike Lucas and Dustin I'm definitely putting like Brenner to deciding to like not try to like take their life but to like capture them and interrogate them and then to take their life and the interrogation will be solely due to like since like 11 has spent so much time with like Mike Davis and Dustin, like which like 11 by then would be fully aware of. So like 11, which like Brenner would be by then fully aware of. So like Brenner might definitely want to like it would be a like high priority for Brenner to like find out if like these kids like Mike Davis and Dustin have that revealed like the secrets about like 11 to like basically to others as well. So like it needs to find that out. Like I'm looking there will be that interrogation. And I'm looking like during that interrogation I'm looking like Dustin totally revealing about like Troy and his friend definitely remember the version like Dustin revealing about like 11 hands was supposed to like Troy and his friend. There's also like the scenario that I'm looking yet like I'm looking like that for Brenner to like interrogate and then Brenner leaving and Brenner would be shortly planning on eventually taking the life of like not letting like Mike Brooks and Dustin leave Brenner's laboratory and eventually to take their life from the Brenner's laboratory will be like Brenner's plan. But like even before that I'm definitely thinking like Mike Lucas and Dustin like somehow like them interacted steadily like communicating using like all sorts of signals and signs between each other like because like I'm about to bring like and was open like them like because like they would be like when I could have that even that room that interrogation room will definitely is CCTV now. So like I'm going to let them somehow stealthily like communicating with each other and basically them somehow managing to like free themselves from like their from that interrogation room with like the scenario inside and that way Mike Lucas understand escaping and basically them like quickly being somehow luckily ending up and I'm going to like them they will be like Mike would be like totally Lucas would be totally telling Mike that like that he needs to that they need to like escape and like I'm assuming like Mike would be totally in disagreement. Mike and Dustin would be totally in disagreement and saying that like they need to save 11 bucks. So like I'm assuming still like I'm assuming like still I'm assuming like since like due to like the situation being like in the like I was feeling I think like yes, you know the choice but to like go according to like Mike and Dustin's plan. So like I'm assuming then uh so like my doctor was certainly that like after like my location Dustin would be like somehow managing to like escape from like the interrogation room at that point. So actually to like the CCTV like I'm using like really not much delayed or like my location Dustin chase being once again chased by Brenner's like man like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point my sugar end up in running to running and basically getting to this location where like there will be this like room where like I'm looking like it should be locked from outside. So like I'm looking uh, like uh, my, we shouldn't have a key, but like it should be like key lock, but still would be like locked from outside. So like I'm looking like Mike quickly removing that lock from the outside and basically quickly trying to like enter and hide in that room. But like as they would be entering that room would be totally locked. So like I'm looking there, it's like them trying to in a way being locked from outside that. So like at that point would be when like at that point, self was opening Brenner and it's like man, like actually Brenner's man like basically showing up out of like into that room and straight away like then being attacked by 11 at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm remembering. And so like 11 and then like I'm looking like Mike quickly turning on like the lights and basically Mike see Mike with the end of himself he's seeing how that was like 11 so that was like the room in which like 11 was like trapped was like imprisoned within that and like that seeing that room like I'm looking like Mike with the end of being so that basically straight away possibly being in like right that like 11 had like basically been trapped and imprisoned in this room and this room might have been like the reason for like 11 showing that it's up to like a hesitancy in like following the corpus and showing up to that feminism and the laboratory and everything like basically might represent us at that point so and we are realizing it's like the scenario that I was different. Then I was different like even more of like runners men showing up and right then like I was like Mike Lucas and along with like 11 basically trying to get away. So like 11 would be like using her superpowers and basically 11 will be using her superpowers again and really that way like Mike Lucas and Rustin will be making that way and and I'm putting like more 11 using like so scenario that I was going to for 11 to like that way like use the use of superpowers in like consecutive succession that like I'm putting like 11 getting for like so like I was like like 11 like Mike totally is carrying 11 and like them three would be like totally fluidly run through like Brenner's energy laboratory and like I'm assuming that way like Mike Lewis and something as well along with like 11 reaching that precise room where like the portal to like the battle world would be. So like they are like I'm assuming like by the time like Mike Lewis and the 11 will be reaching there like I'm assuming like Brenner and his that thing showing up behind the to that room as well. So like Mike Lucas and the screen would be like shockingly seeing that portal and would be like shockingly realizing that this is the gate to where Will is. So like I'm doing that way, like I'm doing like Pranav telling Mike Lucas Pranav straight away telling them Mike Lucas, Dustin and 11 to like really stop and like Mike Lucas and Dustin not listening and like Mike while holding on to like 11 and basically Lucas and Dustin like them all running through that gate into like the battle what is like the scenario that was that would be how like Mike Lucas and Dustin along with like 11 for like the time being would be escaping from Pranav. And at that point, like them entering like the battle world, and from that point on, they bring like Mike Lucas and Dustin along with like 11. like basically them initially like hiding and basically for like 11 to like a roster and they possibly like after like entering into like the battle world itself with that much delay then like not really noticing like the battle world being so extremely different yet like the same to like the real world but also like then without much delay that would be hearing noises of like the monster and maybe even seeing like the monster from a distance so like them then they will be like hiding somewhere and basically then I'm thinking like 11 that like Mike maybe it's them deciding to like basically have 11 first steps so that like 11 could like once again use up superpowers because like that they would be like feeling as like that's like absolutely necessary for them to be able to like look for well and to be able to like survive while at the same time to be able to like look for well in like this parallel dimension would be along the lines like Mike Lucas and the thing would be like things so like them like totally hiding and give time to like 11 to like cross step and heal up and then Mike Lucas and Dustin along with Zach 11 exploring like the parallel dimension, searching for Bill is like the scenario that I was doing. And even before finding Bill, like they will be only finding Barbara first. It's like and they will be only eventually running into Barbara. It's like the even way before Bill is certainly not excited. Yes, so like the main adopter I'm present right now, for like Lucifer right now, basically just by through this binoculars, just by seeing like a bunch of power and light, Hawkins power and light van leaving Electron in front of the laboratory, just by seeing that much itself, like for Lucas to like straight away be able to like come to the conclusion that basically the people in that energy laboratory are after 11 and basically they are right now coming up like Mike and of like for Lucas could have be able to know that and be able to come to such a conclusion. Definitely I was very much sure that like it would all have to do with like 11 quarterly having told Mike because in the having told like Mike because understood that like there are people after her and that coupled with like basically like the fact that like they had spent so much time with 11 and that coupled with Michael Anderson had spent so much time with like 11 and that coupled with like the fact that like they just Lucas was about to find the gate by himself and especially when Lucas had stepped out of the zone like he had seen that one person with like one person with like just van beside him with him and that right outside of like Lucas's home and that van being the very same power and light Hogan's power and lights van. So like I was saying this will be the precise collectively like Lucas might have only added all these things and basically Lucas might have figured that basically so like since like Mike Lucas and even though like Lucas would be like absolutely not at all aware of like Mike having found Mike Anderson having found 11 still and like Lucas right now would be only afraid and worried for like Mike and Dustin because like exactly like the same since like the same Hogan's power and like Van had basically was like outside of like Lucas's home and basically right now with like and also with like 11 having like had that extreme fear to basically follow the compass to follow the direction of like the compass like certainly Lucas might have figured that it would be precisely those people in like the power in the energy laboratory that would be precisely up 11, definitely with remembers. So like right now, I'm looking like Lucas is definitely unaware of like Mike Anderson having found 11, but still Lucas will be only fearful, will be worried for like Mike Anderson precisely because of them having spent a lot of time with like 11, like basically the and after seeing like those great number of power and light, Hawkins power and light van leading from Brenner like energy laboratory, Lucas might have come directed and come to like the conclusion that like the people in that laboratory who are after 11 are like right now making their move and basically coming as a team, as a whole team, especially towards like Mike, especially to capture Mike Lucas and to interrogate them, and that way for them to like be able to like capture 11, and basically is such and through that process like the possibility of like Mike and Dustin as well as Lucas as well get captured by those people from like the laboratory that ending up dying through that process as well. The possibility of it being high exactly according to like what 11 had already revealed in like the very beginning uh, would be this much would be in Lucas' mind right now, and hence like Lucas might have come to the conclusion and basically would be right now worried for like Mike Apollo's well-being and Yet, like I'm assuming, like even though like Lucas would be having absolutely no idea if like Dustin is with Mike or not, like still Mike was the impression where like since like Lucas will be like the closer. Even though Lucas might have not so like basically still exactly like how Dustin said like had revealed about like Lucas' jealousy of like Mike's friendship with like 11 basically. Luckily, Lucas would be like in their both friendship group, like Lucas would be like among like Mike, Lucas, Dustin, as well as Will, like other thing, like Lucas might have been like the closest with Mike. And to see the preparation for like Lucas right now, through his like radio phone, like basically straight away calling specifically Mike, so that like Mike could escape. So definitely Mike on camera. Okay, sir, definitely my good preparation right now. Well, like even though Lucas is like frantically and desperately trying to like make Mike understand that like he is in danger that like they need to like get away from his home like basically before the runners like team people from like the energy level shows up like but still like due to like the improper signal like but neither might nor doesn't being able to like process like what because trying to tell them but like I'm since like 11 is there like I'm 11 using her telepathy powers and usually 11 should be able to like realize and understand what like Lucifer is trying to like communicate. It's like the scenario that I was doing. So like I was doing like Lucifer straight away running away from like my home. I mean like 11 straight away like running away from my home and I was like 11 straight away starting to like hide in like Marcos forest like the scenario that I was doing. But like I'm doing like all this thing I'm just making it even more convenient for like runner and his team to capture 11 Mike and Dustin. It's like given scenario that I'm just looking. And I'm just doing like 11 that way, like straight away uh, on understanding like what Lucas would be trying to say. This like I'm just doing them to be able to like understand. 11 straight away running to towards like Marcos forest. But like and I'm also bring like Mike as well as like Dustin as well. Like running along with like 11, running after 11 is like the scenario that I'm looking for. And like them reaching the partner and his team shows of like them reaching Marcos forest. But still my birthday impressions that like there would definitely be that very same uh, uh, very same person who's like working for like run up to basically spied on Lucas outside of like Lucas home. Like he would be like still keeping up his like spying and would be like also here to like my song as well right now. So like I'm also doing like as 11 along with like my kind of thing would be like totally running to like more good for like I'm also like things straight away reporting to like updating reporting and updating for now as to like them like as to like 11 running to Margaret Falls. So like I was from like that way like 11 and entire team like heading over to like Margaret Falls and they are like I was from like since like within like the forest there will be that at the stealth for like runner and aiming for and the team totally straight away attacking trying to like runner like entire team like basically runners like entire team like straight away trying to like attack 11 in such a manner that basically like they will give the catch of 11 alive. It's like the scenario that I'm positioned. So like Mike end up in getting caught in between and I was bringing like usually like one of like runners like team members like capturing Mike is like the scenario that I'm bringing and like taking Mike to hostage and threatening to hurt Mike and that causing like 11 to like basically give up and stop using us powers and basically that way 11 getting captured by Bruno Freeman getting taken to like another Nobel Award as well as like after 11 will be taken definitely like remaining members of like Bruno's like team capturing Mike as well as Christina and taking them as well as they into like Bruno Nobel Award is certainly my personal but still, my secondary impressions were like even while both of them like department created like 11 might have testing making it so like Marvel software from there like runner and being usually capturing like Mike Dustin as well as 11. Still about like Lucas won't be able to like make it to Marvel Fox in time and solely due to that reason like Ambassador like Ambassador like Lucas by the time Lucas would be reaching Northwood Falls, like I'm putting like Lucas from a distance in like Northwood Falls, like hearing all the noises and basically Lucas from a distance, like see like might end up in being captured and forcefully taken away by the runner's team. With like the scenario that end up occurring. So That's like the scenario that I'm considering. For like the time being right now, I'm considering like Lucas not getting captured by Brenner's team, but like I'm considering to do precisely during like Lucas like by himself, like while he will be executing this like rescue mission of like Mike and Dustin. It will be at that point that I'm considering and trying to like infiltrate into like Brenner's and Murphy, but it will be after like Lucas will be infiltrating into like Brenner's and Murphy, but that I'm considering like Lucas as well. So the CCTV like Lucas as well that way getting captured uh, and put along with like Mike and Dustin. It's like the into scenario that I'm sitting on down over the camera. So like the flame of the person right now as for like right now as like Mike leaves his home, like right before Mike leaves his home, like Mike telling his mother that basically if anyone asks like tell them that he left the country, like I'm going to say this dialogue of Mike that he told to his mother like would be having like a lot of multiple intentions, definitely I was like the first and primary intent of behind my saying that I don't believe precisely to like ensure that his like family is like stays protected and that Pranav and his team stays away from his family. So would be like the primary intent, main intent behind my saying such a dialogue uh, to tell them that he left the country. It's definitely my first reaction. So the second intent behind Mike saying that dialogue is exactly because of like Mike right now through like the phone call having heard Lucas saying like the Batman are like after them. Then like uh through that phone call from Lucas itself like might not only the things that might not only figured and would be sure of would be that like Lucas have seen like Michael would only think that like so Lucas might have followed like the compass to the location where like the Batman are. So like that way. So where like since like Michael is only believing that like where the Batman are would be like the location where like the gate as well. The gate to like the parallel dimension or like the parallel world would be like so Lucas would have totally figured that followed the compass and figured out like the location where like the Batman are. Like this means like Mike would have totally figured and like Mike would have also figured like that like this would be the precise reason for like Eleven being so hesitant to basically follow the compass, follow the direction where like the compass was leading. Like all this like Mike would have figured through like Lucas phone or especially remember the impressions. So like Mike's while saying side of that he left the country to like Mike's mother like before leaving like Mike's intent other intent would be to like quickly right now as like Mike was like quickly rushing out of like along with like Dustin as 11 like Mike's plan would be to like straight away for them to like straight away head off to Murphy Forest and hide in Murphy Forest. Like Mike would be only saying that basically Mike took life that he left the country like for enough like Mike might have like felt that basically this would be his like only way to like basically trick that possibly like he's that life possibly being a participant that way Brenner and his team like being tricked into thinking that they have actually left the country. So basically Mike would be actually thinking that basically his mother would be straight away saying that exactly that Mike has left the country to like a Brenner's team when the show to like Microsoft. But still like Mike's intent behind saying such a thing to his mother would be precisely that like due to like Mike's intent because like Mike would be like totally thinking of not returning back home at all until he saves Will. Would be like Mike's plan right now. Definitely, Mike's plan right now would be to like basically along with like 11 and up to like hide in like Murphy Forest and basically hide and strategize within like Murphy Forest and then for them to like temporarily infiltrate like uh, uh, into like basically where Lucas had found followed the compass and found like the Batman there where like Mike would be expecting the gate to be like for them to like infiltrate there and find the gate basically through that gate for them to like enter into like the parallel world and then uh, for them to like enter into like the parallel world and then for them to then to only for them to like only return back with Will after rescuing and saving Will. This much would be like Michael's plan. This is definitely my preference. This would be like the other main reason for and intent behind like Mike saying the dialogue to like my mother right before he leaves his phone. Because like definitely Mike is be like totally saying that basically he won't be like right now if he leaves his home he won't be able to like return back home anytime soon until he eventually finds he's able to like find Will. Would be one thing that Mike would be feeling close to Europe and this would be the reason for like Mike saying such a dialogue to like my mother that like if anyone asks like tell them that like Mike has left the country. It's definitely my personal impression. So like definitely kind of the impressions that like exactly since my personal impressions that like Mike will be totally thinking that like he won't be able to like as he's right now leaving home, he won't be able to like return back home anytime soon unless he before he finds Phil. It'll be along the like Mike would be thinking. So like I'm wondering like that exactly to be the case as well as definitely my personal. I'm sitting in my impression of like Mike and Dustin at 11 getting captured and being taken to, for example, from there, then entering like the parable and all that. It's definitely, and then eventually, uh, like the people like them finding Will in like the parable and saving Will and all that. Like, definitely, my other emotions that I'm sitting on. Uh, so basically, as of for right now, I'm just referring so like the Canadian Military operation just knew that like after right now I'm just definitely putting like Brenner and his team that showed up with like a great number of plans outside of my home. I'm just like just one or two of them just like their strategy would be for their they would be like using that as a stealthy strategy with like the time being like during daytime like I'm just like them putting on that stealthy strategy and I'm just like to among like from like the brands alone others were like entering Mike's home and like them casually talking to like Mike's mother and asking telling her and also bring the scenario to be like them telling asking like or telling Mike's mother that is the we had got a call from your son saying that there was a repairment required like basically repairment service like required in this home like basically that way like them putting on a fake act and then so like casually asking for like so where so like straight away like I'm putting like my mother like telling them that no we didn't call like no then straight away telling my mother that like no it was your from that call like we're your son like basically I don't first lines with them asking my mother is like the scenario that I'm putting so my mother like telling them that basically he just like ran off. So like I'm like still my mother would be totally feeling something off about like something totally off about like what Mike had told his mother before he left that he's like leaving the country. That ambassador she would be totally confused and kind of a bit worried and in would like be like a confused kind of kid. That ambassador maybe like my mother even saying that like telling them that like he just now left ran off and left saying he was leaving the country or along this lines like I'm like my mother right now would be in like a confused state, especially with like Mike saying this as well as saying this right now as well as technically with her phone call as well with like which would be definitely with like Steve's parents as like Mike said that he's like leaving the country like Mike's mother might have definitely been in a phone call with like Steve's parents where like they might have been totally blaming uh, Nancy for like the injuries of like Steve's and all that. So like my mother already through that phone call might have been kind of like in a stressed and worried kind of like a state. And on top of this, like I'm also like my mother like to be in a totally kind of like a confused and kind of seriously worried kind of stressed out state. While foreigners like team would be like entering Mike's home and like questioning Mike's mother about like the repairs and like basically about like her and asking her like where her son is. So like that possibly like her possibly telling them that basically she just like ran up right now saying like she's leaving the country. It's like the scenario that ambassador only brings and definitely this dialogue that like Mike said that she's leaving the country like I'm definitely bringing like Brenner and his team totally eventually deciding to like take advantage of that is like the scenario that I'm doing. Brenner and his team at that point think that it will be that like that dialogue of Mike would like be end up being useful for them would be around lines Brenner and his team would be thinking. So that like I'm looking like Mike definitely after being captured by Brenner and his team, like I'm looking like Brenner and his team not at all even being remotely worried at all about like Mike's parents, about like Mike end up not returning back home, not being able to like return back home that Mike precisely because like Brenner would be like only would be like totally confident that basically because of like Mike having said that dialogue that Ambassador totally most likely ordering his like uh, scene to like once again. And I would like to just be specifically about observation that Mike and Dustin was and 11 slowly getting captured in the forest. So like I'm assuming the bicycles would be at that point within that much of the forest. That point is like the scenario that I'm looking. So like exactly like how Brenner's team had basically left Barbara's car and basically created the fake story that basically Barbara had left like the town or like the country. Like I'm assuming like in the same manner like I'm assuming maybe like Brenner and his team. Brenner or his team to like leave the bicycles of like Mike and Dustin and eventually once like they just get shattered and different like Brenner maybe like when essentially in like the middle of the night sending his team members to like basically uh, simply to like in the middle of the night still move the bicycle as well and then some Lucas would be getting answer like Spain like same Lucas bicycles as well and this like Mike Lucas and Dustin are like friends that always like spend time together like ambassador like Brenner ordering his like team to like basically leave their bicycles as well their three bicycles as well at like a specific location where like there would be like there would be the steps to like leave the town or like town of Hawkins to leave my presentation that way Brenner creating another fake story that basically like story like kind of like a situation as if like basically Mike, Lucas and Dustin had basically left the country. It's like the scenario that I'm going and poor Mike's mother and Mike's sister Nancy as well as like Mike's father, like all of them being like so extremely worried for like Mike especially after like Will's disappearance and like Barbara's disappearance, like I was doing like this being like too much for like Nancy, as well as like Michael's family, like I was thinking, like it being too much, and they were totally afraid of like uh the totally worried and afraid for Mike, and I was bring like definitely slowly I was bring like Mike's mother coming to understand like the whole through depth of like the situation of like the suffering that like Will's mother had been going through back then that time. Basically, and that possibly that situation, that whole situation of like my sister's parents and bringing like the family of like family of Will, like Jonathan, as well as like Will's mother, like as well as like Mike's family, like Mike's like parents, like these two families once again, like they might have been low in like the past before like Lonnie, and it might have been Lonnie's like Lonnie rating all sorts of issues that might have caused like the friendship between like the families of Mike as well as like Will. So basically lose their absolute great bond between like the families might have been destroyed eventually through Lonnie alone, especially when it was everything. But like that bonds between these two families that might have been destroyed, like I was something like that bond like slowly being restored one through like eventually once like Mike would be uh, like once definitely Mike won't be returning back home and literally once like days would be like days and maybe months would be passing like at that point like that whole worry that like my parents would be having like ambassador like that ambassador like eventually bringing like Mike's family close to like Will's family once again and like the bond eventually being restored is like the scenario that I'm totally different. And I'm remembering like my mother like spending a lot of time in like with like Will's mother. It's like and then just scenario that I'm making a different and remembering. And that's like the scenario that I'm looking and I'm also putting like that way at that point like Nancy being in like the same shoes of like Jonathan with the brothers missing and on top of that it being like a bit worse for like Nancy it being worse for Nancy with like her good friend like Barbara as well going having gone missing like basically all these like situations like about like bringing not only these two families closer but definitely also bringing like Jonathan as well as Nancy as well she's way closer as well is like my very impression as for achieving the scenario that I was bringing out of the impression. And definitely my very impression is that like at that point definitely for like even from like the police like I'm looking like it would be just like pop up alone that was the thing to be that absolute pillar of strength and comfort for like both Mike's mother as well as like Will's mother at that point is like that hope that like hope for like maybe they will be able to like find it's like pretty much a scenario that I'm looking at even like my doctor and like all the other cops in like the Hawkins, like police cops, like and also like mostly morning cop, like the fake story of that of Brenner that like Brenner would be spreading by then that Mike percent of them had left the country. But like I'm assuming like it would be just copper alone that would be like totally believing in that absolutely certain that basically it's like Brenner and his like team that like the culprit behind it disappearance. It's like living the scenario that I'm doing and my brain. So it's like a flavor is very interesting right now is that like either it would be like right now as like Brenner and his team are like after Mike and Dustin as well as like 11 who are on the bicycle as well as right now with like Lucas through his like radio as well like totally communicating with like Mike and Dustin like I'm also going like definitely I'm also going to either it should be like right now that I'm looking as like eventually as like Brenner and team will be like catching up to like Mike and Dustin maybe at that point, like basically being like the point when like Lucas would be like totally firing his like slingshot, like finally Lucas is like slingshot, like Lucas actually using it, and basically that Lucas had basically had that absolute confidence in basically that slingshot being having the ultimate power to like bring down like the villain, like that scenario possibly like kind of like happening in a way where like just like Lucas using the slingshot and basically like the main villain Brenner, like Amazon, like the firing like slingshot at exactly Brenner. Lucas also so Indian race with like Brenner that like Lucas maybe from like things like firing like the slingshots at like Brenner and like that injuring like Brenner. It's like a possible scenario that I'm assuming. And I'm assuming like this scenario and I'm assuming like the shot that will be fired look that's the Lucas will be firing using his like slingshot like landing at like Brenner's head. So like the scenario that I'm assuming. And I'm assuming like this scenario could happen either right now as like Brenner and team are chasing after like Mike and Dustin with their bicycle deck. It's happening either right now or like I'm assuming it will be happening right before like Mike, Lucas and Dustin as they will be like escaping from within like their interrogation room in like Brenner's another lab laboratory along with like 11 as like Mike, Lucas and Dustin will be about to enter into the gate to like the battle world like right before that like I'm assuming maybe Lucas firing like the slingshot at like Brenner and basically that being the point when like Lucas firing is looking to at like Brenner and that injuring Brenner. It's like it could be either one of these two scenarios that I'm looking for the Brenner and the game question. Okay, so like the game question right now with like solely due to like 11 superpower like basically sending like the obstacle van flying like my Lucas and Dustin along with like 11 being able to like escape from like Brenner and it's like a huge team. Like I'm looking like still I'm also like it would be such an extremely short and temporary escape for like Mike Lucas and Dustin as well as 11 from Brenner's teams. Like that's really my looking version. I'm definitely preferring that without much great delay at all. Like I'm definitely Brenner and his team precisely capturing like Mike, Lucas, and Dustin as well as like 11. It's like them capturing them both together is like the scenario that not together but like I'm looking like in order to like stop 11 members of like specifically members of version that as for like the scenario of like strategy Brenner using would be really quite threatening to have 11 like friends Microsoft and Dustin. So like that way like basically specifically Mike and basically that way like 11 getting like 11 getting captured and then like Mike as well after taking 11 away like Reynolds being capturing like Mike Wilson and Dustin and taking them as well to run up like another with like the scenario that I'm going to bring and right now with like the calling bell ringing in like Mike's home definitely I'm going to bring that would be definitely Brenner most likely straight away ordering his part of the team to like basically uh, would be like disguised as like police officers like them like would be like precisely the people that would have right now shown up in front of like would be showing up in front of uh, in, uh, in front of like Michael Pong is definitely going to think and that would be that calling bell right now definitely going to so like Brenner to get behind sending them would be precisely to question like to question like my sister family and basically like do that way like and about like the whole questioning like them about like literally showing up like look as the police officer and about like them totally questioning Mike's family about like the whole incident that very day at like the supermarket like by 11 like basically, but like the way they would be like changing up that story would be like them questioning my family, my parents, and saying it like basically uh, since like they had totally seen like Mike running away, and since like Brenner and team would be like absolutely sure that Mike won't be like definitely be able to like return back. That Mike wouldn't like dare to like return back home. That Mike like Brenner would be totally having that confidence. Definitely remember the Brenner. So like I was like Brenner totally ordering his ordering his like subordinates from the same showing up like state police officers and basically them basically questioning Mike's mother about like basically the incident in telling my mother about like the incident related to the supermarket and basically all the destruction in like the supermarket and that like basically Mike, Lucas and Dustin were like behind that like basically along first lines like I'm between in a fake manner like I'm between along first lines like them changing up like the story and talking to and questioning Mike's parents and this would be all the like that absolute intent for them to like figure out if especially since like they had seen like 11 stepping out along with like Mike and Dustin like 11 stepping out from like Mike's home and like this will be all foreigner and teams intent to like see if Mike's family like knows anything about 11. It's definitely my best friend. It's so like I'm best friend like Brenner to figure this out and if Mike's parents knows anything like Brenner's plan would be to like straight away to harass them as if like in the name of like questioning them like to harass them and to that way like to abduct them and bring them to Brenner's like energy laboratory and to like interrogate them and basically then to like take their life to see if they have if they know about 11 like if they have said it to like anybody else and then figuring this out and to eliminate it and everything one step within like for another after updating and taking to like runners and now still about three like it will be with this intent that I'm also bringing like runner right now might have sent this like team which would be definitely fake police officer who will be like right now ringing like that calling back and like microphone right now it's definitely my birthday impression. But like I'm the especially like my parents doesn't know anything about like 11. I'm going to bring like through their body language and through the way they are be like responding and replying to like their questions uh, I'm going to bring foreigners team being able to like easily figure out that basically that my family doesn't know anything about like 11. But like I'm going to like as during this questioning I'm going to bring still my mother definitely especially with like my mother right now like walking through like the basement, like calling out my quick name, like definitely. So my mother definitely might have not taken like the dialogue of Mike that he's leaving the country, obviously not seriously at all. It's certainly my point of impression, but with like right now, like walking downstairs to like the basement and basically have finding like Mike missing even the like that she might have expected Mike to be something like even there like Mike missing and that way like at that point like she might have figured that Mike after saying that dialogue Mike had actually left the home. So that might have slowly started a bit of a worry maybe for like my mother and then on top of that seeing the blonde hair friends in Mike's basement like I'm like maybe Mike's mother might like would be thinking along the lines that of might have left with her girlfriend like would be along the like might have had a girlfriend which like he might have not told uh like this told their parents and like exactly like how Nancy now didn't say about like Steve to her parents like basically especially in a similar manner, like maybe like also that might also having a girlfriend and basically him not on like not having told his like parents like so they along the lines like Mike's mother would be thinking at that point after finding the hair friends like she would also think that might be actually serious about like such dialogue that before they inform that basically he's like going to leave the country. Like Mike's mother being worried at that point after finding the hair friends, like the scenario that I'm also bringing that like I'm also bringing once like Brenner's team it would be like a fake police, a bunch of fake police officers. The claim that fake police officers like about the point while they would be like questioning Mike's parents, like about the point like Mike's mother totally being worried, and she would be like on saying police officers, about her to like straight away tell them everything about like seriously and in a worried manner, her telling them of like her having found like these blonde hair strands in like the basement, and basically on top of that, like basically Mike having just now told them that basically that he's leaving the country, like, and like my mother never in manner telling like the disguised police officer friend of that basically he's worried that basically her son won't return back, like he's going missing, like basically along such lines in a worried manner, like my mother will be telling them, like thinking that they are like actual police officers at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm observing. So like hearing this much itself, like that those disguised police officers and positives, like at that point have been kind of like confirmed for them that basically Michael's family have absolutely no idea at all as for like the truth about 11, like other than like the possibility of like uh, the truth about 11 at all. Like even my mother only knows that things of like the what if they are possibly being like a girl, haven't been a girl present in like her home alone, like basically. So like I'm also putting like because of this, like I'm also putting like definitely at that point, foreigners like team like not attacking or like not capturing or not harassing Michael's family and like them straight away telling, keeping up their fake act and telling like Michael's mother that like we'll look into it and really will ensure that like we'll look into it, like along the slides then putting on the fake act, and like Brenner's like team of like police officers, guys with police officers like straight away leaving Michael's home is like the scenario that I'm looking at. And from this point would be when like Mike's mother's like true worries would be like beginning. His like and she will be starting to like be able to like actually seriously relate to like Will's mother from this point on. Slowly more and more as each day passes and Mike won't return back home. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. I'm not looking at. So that remember the person right now is like Papa right now asking like Jonathan about like the bear traps. Definitely like right now like there to be like a private interaction between like Papa and Jonathan, and then be like Papa talking to like Jonathan as well as Nancy to like the scenario that I'm looking through that interaction, like Jonathan and Nancy are revealing to how everything they know about like the mod stuff, and they won't be like it's like Jonathan right now even having said that Hopper won't believe him to that but the point like Nancy even would be even having like the least bit of expectations of Hopper even taking them seriously. But like when Nancy and Jonathan will be revealing about like the monster, like straight away like about the like Hopper totally connecting like the monster to like what Wood's mother had told Hopper about like her being chased after like the monster. Like that Wood's mother would have only so I think have told Hopper the thing about the prejudice. So like once again like the and so like that way, like more people once again more people saying about like the monster. So like I'm looking like at that point like I'm looking like definitely with like Nancy revealing about, and I was really put in that interaction like Nancy revealing to Hopper about like the whole kind of like a different world that she passed through like the tree and all that. So like at that point, and that Nancy Anderson at that point telling her that this is where she believes that basically the monster would have taken like uh, the monster would have taken like Will as well as like as well as Barbara along the lines like Nancy will be saying at that point like the scenario that I'm just like. So like my personal impressions are like proper gaining that information like but the like a way forward, like a path forward would be definitely be opening up for Hopper about like the fact existence. Hopper upon realizing the existence of this other world, like about that would be like a path forward for like Hopper at that point that Hopper will be getting. So like Hopper will be like determined to like as soon as possible like enter into like that different world, and basically Hopper will be absolutely confident that like it's like the possibility of Will being trapped there. So like I was wondering like Hopper certainly telling like Nancy as well as Jonathan to like definitely sneak out of like their home that very night. It's like the scenario that certainly was between Hopper totally planning was like Nancy as well as like Jonathan to basically go to like for that very night. It's definitely remembering this, especially since like it was like especially Nancy as well as Jonathan that had seen like the monster, and it seems like it was them that had seen where exactly in like Muscle Bottom they have seen like the monster showing up and all that, like really, uh, so like my consideration that definitely think like the market cost would be like extremely huge. Definitely Hopper would definitely need like even though Hopper would have that concern for like having like with like the presence of like a monster in like market cost, like Hopper would be totally concerned about like Nancy or like Jonathan like getting into any danger, but still basically like Hopper determined to like protect Nancy and Jonathan like from like the monster. But like for Hopper like it would be like even more their priority to like know where exactly like the portal is and like to for like offer to be able to like pass through and move through into like that other world. So like solely due to the reason I'm like offer totally telling Nancy as well as Jonathan to like stealthily sneak out of their home that very night and basically for them to like go to Mercer Falls that night. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. That way like Hopper, Jonathan as well as Nancy making their plan and basically like them in like the middle of the night like with their whole bear traps and everything like which like I was looking like the subordinates of Hopper like the other police officers they would be keeping all that bear traps and everything with them which was the train Hopper during night time like stealthily like taking out those like bear traps and everything and those different putting it into his like car and basically Hopper like in the middle of the night like I'm different like Hopper totally getting Nancy and Jonathan and basically like them like totally going up to like not the forest is like the scenario that I'm considering and they are like as they would be like something setting up the bear traps and everything and searching for like the monster like at that point I'm considering by then like definitely like the team of like the team of 11 Lucas, Dustin, as well as Mike Les. Them, like I'm considering like them, I'm considering right now with like them having temporarily having succeeded like escaping from like Brenner's team. Like I'm considering like Mike right now most likely taking the decision to like basically hide 11 and to for them all to like hide in like Muffled Forest and for like the time being and basically for them to like hide 11 in like gas and fire like would be or like I'm assuming with them maybe cat buyers would be like big enough to like be able to like contain like the four of them is also like a possibility that I'm assuming. So like maybe like Mike Lucas as well as Dustin as well as 11 deciding to like live in like gas and fires for like the time being until they find will uh, until they like are able to like simply sneak into like Brana's laboratory and basically find the and pass through the gates within like Brana's laboratories like would be like the plan but like Mike Lucas Dustin as well as like would be like putting a step the plan they will be forming a definitely member pyramid. So like I was like them staying in like them as well like without this delay hiding in like marine forest which like the scenario that I'm looking. So like while it's like it would be night time and while like Copper, the team of like Copper, Nancy, and Jonathan would be searching around like the very same area where like they had seen like the monster and Lucifer like so like I was going like by the time it would be like 8 o'clock in like the night like I was like once again like for like according to my some person thing like that leads up to definitely the like an energy spike happening in like Varana's energy laboratory every day every night like especially around like 8 o'clock like I'm that being like I'm like to be like for that such a significance to be there for like the right time 8 o'clock in like the night so for the so like certainly the monster by now would have be able to like pass from like the parallel world to like the real world potentially during 8 o'clock as like a play. So it's definitely my preference. So from like the time period maybe of like from 8 o'clock to like 8:30 it would be like when like Reynolds energy laboratory would be having that energy spike and that way the folding between like the real world and the parallel world being like around like the area of like the town of Hawkins, like or like around Mudwood Forest, like being like around like the entirety of like the town of Hawkins alone, like basically that holding between like the real world and parallel world being the closest precisely from like the time period of 8 o'clock to like 8:30 alone. In like the night alone, it's definitely one connection. So like that way like the monster would have figured this as well. Definitely my brain will try. The monster after like entering into like the real world and affecting will and basically like and then like the monster would have before like 8:30 at past like the monster would have already affected will and basically straight away left to like the parallel world. So like from like the parallel world like from the next day on, like emphasizing like the monster might have been constantly trying to like enter back into like the real world. So like my considering definitely that like it would be definitely through like that science in like the very beginning, like him totally betraying Brenner and like secretly performing like that experiment to like open up like the portals with like 11 uh, on 11, and basically that way like he might have wanted to like share all the glory of like being able to like open the portal. So like he might have betrayed Brenner, and like that might have been when definitely the monster might have entered into like the real world for like first time. It's definitely one of those, and that might have been the point when like monster might have even realized like the existence of like a real world, another world, like the scenario that I was in. So like after abducting Bill and leaving back to like the parallel world, like the monster might have tried to like enter back into like the real world multiple times. Definitely remember the mention. So like that might have been like the rustling sound in like the outdoor set of like when like Hopper had basically in the beginning had basically came to like Will's home to like investigate, and basically was investigating the shed of like Will. Like at that point, like the rustling sound from beneath like the object like in like the shed might have been like the monster trying to like the thriller trying to like enter back into to the real world. But like that might have definitely not at all been possible for like the monster solely due to like the time period not being the time not being like 8 to like 8:13 like the night stuff never very much. But like I'm looking since then like the monster might have usually figured out like basically that like the time like being like around like 8 and 8:30 like being like the only time when like the monster will be able to be like a free, and basically will be able to travel from like parallel world to the real world and back from like the real world to the parallel world. Like the monster might have figured that out by now. It's definitely very so like right now I'm considering like in this like very night like I'm considering like after like Nancy and Jonathan would be revealed to Hopper about everything they know, like I'm considering like that night itself like Hopper along with like, Nancy and Jonathan something was put for like the monster, and the monster like showing up precisely uh, uh, from one of like the bosses, like the scenario that I'm considering. And at that point, like I'm considering like Hopper trying to take the life, attacking like the monster and basically using the weapon and basically trying to, and I'm considering like them setting up like the weapons and everything. But like I'm considering like in like normal form, but still I'm considering like the monster not falling for like the bad one. That's like the scenario that I'm considering, or like the monster getting lucky and basically not stepping onto like the bad type of like the puzzle scenario that I'm considering. Anyway, uh, like uh, anyway, like I'm looking like eventually Hopper trying to like attack and bring down like the monster, but like I'm looking that attempt failing at like the monster attacking back, and at that point I'm looking it will be too much for Hopper. Then of course bringing Jonathan as well as Nancy trying to like attack the monster, and that way like at that point Nancy like Jonathan like seriously getting injured, Hopper getting injured, and like as like the monster will be about to like seriously attack Nancy. Like by then like I'm supposed to bring like through all this like noise of like I'm supposed to bring like Lucas Dustin as well as Mike along with like 11 would be like especially during that time would be hiding in that very same market forest as well. Them as well only hearing all this noise, and so like even though 11 would be like able to like sense like the monster from a distance, like at that point like I'm assuming like 11 totally like not for going further and basically left because of 11 being totally scared. So like at that point like Mike would be hearing like Nancy's voice and Nancy's scream. So like at that point like Mike totally realized that like his footsteps. So like I'm assuming Mike totally charging forward towards like where like the monster will be about to attack Nancy, and so like I'm assuming like Mike totally throwing a stone at like the monster as like the monster will be about to attack Nancy. So like at that point, like the monster's like direction, changing its direction and focus towards like Mike, and like as like the monster will be about to take Mike, attacking Mike and will be about to take Mike's life. At that very last second, I was bring like 11, like basically building up the courage and basically because like my of Mike being solely because of Mike being so precious to 11, like I was like as like the monster will be able to take Mike's life. Like 11 totally showing up and using 11 superpowers against like some monster like the scenario that I'm delivering. So maybe at that point, like the scenario I'm delivering either that superpower attack of like 11 like tearing away like the monster and the monster leading through like the portal, or like the other possible scenarios like the monster totally recognizing 11. Basically because like my delirium this is like the monster would be like in like the parallel world like the parallel version of like Pranav would have uh, like his experiment on like the parallel version of like 11 might have result gone wrong and resulted in like the parallel version of 11 ending up be turned into like this monster might have been what might have happened. So like this monster would be like in actuality would be like the rather version of 11 because remember frame in the 15 so like this monster like even though it would be like barely conscious still like it's on seeing like 11 like and it's seeing it like true self in 11 before it had turned into a monster. So like I'm looking like it's a kind of like uh, on seeing like 11 like it's stopping its like attacks and it's like the monster leading through like the portal. It's also like the other positive scenario that I was doing. But like I'm assuming the just like 11 would be like showing running towards like the monster and Mike will like save Mike like right with as like 11 would be running towards there like I'm assuming like it would be perfectly 11 that would be like actually getting caught in that bear trap. Like also my was remember. Uh, so like that like the scenario that I was looking. So that like by the time like 11 would be saving Mike, like at that point like definitely like Nancy, Jonathan as well as like Hopper seeing the would be like early shock. It's like the scenario that I was looking. 11 using superpowers like that and them being shocked and basically and like Hopper would be like finally at that point realizing though finally he has found like the real thought so like I'm person like Hopper would be thinking that basically so like there is like hope and all that of that and it would be while they would all be like totally uh once like the monster would be like leaving at that point back to like the parallel world and once like they would all be placed to like see each other like Nancy and yeah, this then as well as at the same time confused like at like Mike and his like team like basically confused to see like Nancy, Jonathan and Hopper and Hopper there in like the Boston and all that while they would be confused as well while they would be wanting to like talk to each other like right before that time was like Brenner and his like entire team would be like might have definitely might have totally expected like Mike and his friends to like along with like 11 to not return back home. Uh, Definitely 11 would be like scared that day of like Brenner that 11 the last thing 11 would be doing would be like returning back to like Mike home. So like I was thinking like Brenner would be totally expecting like Mike Lucas and Dustin to like hide in like Northwood Forest that very night. So like I'm thinking 11 and his Brenner and his team deciding to like form the entirety of like Northwood Forest that very night. So like I was doing precisely it would be by the time like the monster would be like leaving through like the portal and like Hopper, Nancy and Jonathan would be wanting to like talk to like Mike, Lucas, Dustin as well as like 11 and they would be wanting to like talk to like Mike to like Nancy, Jonathan and Hopper like right before that itself like I'm looking like right as they would be about to talk to each other like right before that I'm looking like Runner and his entire team showing up there and capturing all of them this like the scenario and taking and abducting all of them and taking them to like an laboratory is like the scenario that I'm looking and like I'm looking like all of them like put into like maybe like a single room in like an in-person kind of like a state. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. 11 and alone being taken away from that one, while all of the remaining of them like basically Mike Lucas, Dustin as well as Nancy, Jonathan and Hopper like being put in like an interrogation room. It's like the corporate scenario that I'm looking like. So like I'm assuming like during this like whole and I'm assuming Brenner showing up there and basically like the villains pick Brenner like trying to interrogate them and basically Brenner telling them that basically after this interrogation like that like he will be that you are now going to like make it back like basically that he will be like eliminating you or will be along the lines like Brenner will be like when you see villains telling them like the, around like the scenario that I was doing. And after like a brief interrogation, like I'm looking like Brenner leaving the room, like Brenner will be totally feeling comfortable thinking that basically they won't be able to like escape at all. And basically, like slowly Brenner could like interrogate all of them and get out all the information he wants out of all of them. Uh, so like, but like I'm looking at the scenario to be like that very night, like I'm looking like Hopper shortly. Since Hopper will be totally having like the skills to like definitely Hopper using skills like figuring out a way to like basically ambassadors them to be in like a tired state or something. So Hopper still figuring out a way to like escape. So like Hopper escape can Hopper like basically bring like the others as well. And then of the bring it to Hopper to tell all of them to like follow Hopper's lead and basically ambassador like Hopper would be really having a weapon to go sort of with Remus, but like Hopper that way like basically searching through like Brenner's energy laboratory and I'm considering like quickly Brenner's team like following after like they've been chasing after them and like them as they will be running away like together like I'm considering them like reaching like the rooms of like 11 and like as they will be opening that door like I'm considering 11 being the with in that room. So like I'm considering like 11 at that point using up to all and basically that way Brenner's team like being blown away by 11's powers and basically then they would all be like still more of like when Brenner's team members will be chasing after that. So like they would all be like trying to not during their attempt to like get away from Brenner's team like my and all of them like reaching that precise portal room, like the main gate room within like Brenner's and from there like I'm also bringing like Hopper and his team as well as like Mike and his team along with like 11 like basically all of them like escaping in order to like escape from Brenner and especially because like for Hopper definitely it should be like a golden opportunity that Hopper will be saying that finally with like having made it through the gate the portal like basically that Hopper would be seeing this as like a golden opportunity that he can so like Hopper telling them all to jump into that portal so like they on them or like entering into that portal. And Hopper would be having that absolute confidence that basically with his skills that he will be able to like consistently while maintaining like the protection that he will be able to like maintain that protection of like all of the kids while at the same time like he will be able to like even like protect by simultaneously protecting it from like the monster like he will be Hoppers will like be able to also search it through like the battle words and for Hoppers will like find and save Barbara and build the squad in Hopper's mind like Hopper and all of them like basically entering into like the battle world and like their exploration and their journey like the battle world like beginning from that point out like the scenario that I'm looking as of right now. Even the scenario that I'm looking at as of right now, I'm not going to react. Okay, so like definitely I'm very interested right now. Was like the helicopter stuff right now crossing from the building could be also definitely due to like runners like borders to like first for like 11 like even above. So definitely my very much so like I'm looking at right now. I'm not considering most likely my telling all of them that like their best option right now will be to like hide where like not even helicopters won't be able to like see us like that would be the thing much for would be like the conclusion that Mike would be coming to. So like Mike using such a strategy for them to like run and hide in like Market Forest. That way like Mike Lucas Dustin as well as 11 ending up in like Market Forest is like the scenario that I'm considering all the putting in the question. Definitely I'm considering right now with like the helicopter approaching like I'm considering like the helicopter right now definitely won't be able to like Brennan's team right now won't be able to like capture like Mike Lucas and Dustin, but still I'm considering maybe like them like figuring out eventually shortly that very night by that night itself like I'm considering like Brenner and his team like figuring out that basically could be precisely but put for that like Mike Lucas and Dustin that 11 would be hiding at was definitely my best friend and hence like I'm sitting in my best friend which I could be during like the night time that like Brunner would be forming a like an entire huge team to basically come through like the entire episode of the star where like I'm just sitting in my best friend which it would be that way that I'm just like eventually like not only my group of Justin as well as 11 but like also like Hopper Nancy as well as John that will be joining up to not that night and they would all be getting captured and like put into like an emotional like state in like and a better and put into like an emotional like state in the laboratory. That very nice is like both scenarios that I'm still thinking on to another brain. So it's like a minimum 300% right now with like Johnson and Nancy are right now revealing about like the concept to like to Hopper as well as if Joyce like this month of so definitely like they would all be like still even while right now like Joyce like this month of Joyce like basically telling Jonathan actually like that he's not alone that and all that like even about like taking his life and his life in like risk and danger but due to like them searching for some monster vampires but still this very nice result from the something like still once again like Nancy and Jonathan heading off to like Market Forest to like search for the monster but this time like the difference would be like there will be like Hopper as well as like Joyce accompanying them will be along with them and they will all be together searching for the monster is like the scenario that I'm going to bring in religion. So like especially because of this reason I'm going to talk about like just to be the scenario and considering that way, like once like Brenner would be capturing all of them, like and like Joyce as well getting captured and imprisoned in like getting imprisoned in like Brenner's laboratory, and they would all be like together escaping through like the gates in Brenner's laboratory through like the barricade, which is like the preamble that I'm sitting on. Okay, so like definitely the preamble right now has got like for the right now finding out about like the friendship of 11 or Jane with like Mike Lucas and the thing through Troy of all people like and those like right now those like with like for finding out about like Mike Lucas and the thing straight away was like for heading over to like check up on like Lucas and Dustin as well as microphone. So like I'm thinking like maybe it would be like first like Copper would be like heading over to like Lucas soon. Then like they are like slowly finding that Lucas has gone out and basically since like maybe morning and basically then Hopper going out to like Dustin's home and like then Hopper finding out like basically Dustin as well has gone out and haven't returned since morning. And then Hopper like Ambassador like Maselli then heading off to like Mike's home. And then in Mike's home like Ambassador definitely definitely like Mike's mother like Hopper probably seeing like Mike's mother being extremely worried and in like a panicking kind of like a state. And Mike's mother it's like the scenario that Ambassador and Mike's mother like totally telling Hopper about like the photo about these people that basically showed up after like as soon as like Mike had left like basically these people that from like the police that basically uh that had stored up and basically with them showing this like photo of this like girl with like a buzz cut hair like basically that at that point like a participant like Mike's mother revealing in such a manner to like Copper and at that point Copper being shocked once again with like the repeating mentions of like Jane like the girl that Copper is like so badly searching for like basically the repeated mentions of our lands and basically that like these people asked if like Mike had hidden said that Mike had hidden this girl in their home like basically all this like happening so like Mike's mother like saying all this like proper and pop it will be like uh if the Mike's mother will be totally confused that she will be saying to like all this would be making perfect sense to like Copper like the scenario that I'm preparing. So like at that point through that whole interaction with like my mother, like Big Proper would be learning and I was definitely choice as well will be only be present with like my mother. With Proper is like also like the possible scenario that I'm preparing. So like what they would be like what Proper would be like relating at that point would be that basically since like Proper had found like first found like the flow from like the tunnels from out and leading to like for energy laboratory to Marco Torres like different like that would be true like that tunnel like pipe would be like most likely leading to Marco Torres. Definitely I think like and my different impression. So definitely pop up would be like putting like the pieces together like of like all of its finding until that point until right now and basically so like my preferred impression is that like Popper thought or like Popper should totally like put the pieces together and of the puzzle together and Popper totally come to the conclusion that basically Jane might have recently escaped out of like from nursing lab and basically like Mike Lucas and might have totally ran into like Mike Lucas and Dustin maybe in like Marcus Forest and understanding uh, Joyce like understanding was like the like Joyce being present with like Popper so like Joyce telling Popper that basically that that like Phil was like Mike Lucas and Dustin like that front were like Mike Lucas and Dustin were they were like just friends with like Bill like maybe Joyce figuring that the Hopper is also like the scenario that I'm doing. So like Hopper maybe thinking things through and maybe Hopper coming to the conclusion that maybe that might of like the possible scenario that like after like Twin might have gone disappeared like might represent us in possibly having searched through multiple sort and them having ran into like this girl Jane and basically right now but like and since then like Jane might have been and they might have totally brought Jane and then Hopper like I'm proceeding to that thing along the lines of like maybe due to like then maybe due to like either Jane having like superpowers which like the kids might have felt forced like maybe because of that like Mike totally hiding Jane in like Mike's home or like it might be due to like since like Will was their best friend and they might have totally badly wanted to like find Will like maybe like since like Jane has been revealed to like have a lot of like superpowers and unique powers. Like maybe Jane might know that Will would be still alive, so like Mike Lucas and Dustin would be totally would be like needing Jane to like find Will. They'll be like trying to like find Will with like Jane and so like I'm going to bring like and I'm going to bring like Michael's mother even worried manner like totally even telling Hopper that at that point that basically like like that all these like people like who claim to be who might not only claim to be like Brenner's team might not only claim to be the formidable so like therefore showing up as soon as like Mike had left and when Mike had left like that much like was something like Mike's mother telling Hopper and Hopper at that point asking Mike's mother as to like what Mike had said the last thing Mike had said to Mike's mother before he left and Mike's mother telling Hopper that basically it was that basically that Mike is like leaving the country that basically that at that point like Hopper like to be that being able to like connect things and bring like Hopper maybe also coming to the conclusion that because like basically through Jane like basically Mike and his friends knowing about like Brenner and his team being after like chasing after Jane trying to catch up Jane so definitely that might be the reason for like so like Mike and his friends might have Jane might have told Mike and his friends that they believe Brenner and his team uh, as like they were about to like show up to like Michael's home like even before that like using that Jane's like unique powers like telepathic powers and everything like superpowers like Jane might have told Mike and his friends about like Brenner and his team like approaching Mike's home. So like Mike and his friends might have like left from left their home and basically they might be like so like they might have left Mike and his friends might have left Mike's home along with like Jane while they were like well aware that they won't be able to like that runner and team were after them so like they won't and while they were well aware that they won't be able to like return back anytime soon back to their home so like this might be the reason for like Mike telling Mike's last words before leaving his home to his mother being that to basically tell the people that will be showing up uh, that basically Mike has left the country. Like basically this much like offer like about different like putting like the pieces of the puzzle together and like coming to the conclusion. It's like the scenario that I'm different. So but like Brenner and his team showing up after that and asking for like the girl with like the bucket hair, like I'm wondering like since that happened, like I'm wondering like for coming to the conclusion that like so like Brenner and his team might still be like frantically searching for Jane and might have still not maybe might have already got Jane or might have still not got Jane. Like the either one of these two possibilities will be along the lines of like the conclusion that Hopper will become down to was definitely my own remember. And I was referring like my impression that like things like Troy has right now told Hopper that basically that Jane that this girl has like basically has the power to like make people fly like I'm the different like this reason like I'm the different like pop up media singing around the lines maybe singing around the lines of that basically Mike and his friends like actually possibly having even left country especially because solely due to like 11 superpowers will be also along the possible ways in which like Hopper would be also thinking towards also like about that I'm also bring so definitely with that, like I'm looking like offer even more worried for like Mike for like the current situation being like Mike as well as like you know, on top of like the current disappearance like with like the wheelchair front of like Mike with like Hopper realizes that definitely Mike Lucas and Justin won't be able to like return back uh would be most likely also disappearing and won't be like their missing would be like turning into like a disappearance. The Hopper will be totally seeing a serious possibility of that definitely happening. So like Hopper I'm considering for Hopper being like so extremely worried. So like I'm thinking like just like so like I'm considering like at that point for like Hopper to be in like a confused kind of state where like Hopper won't be able to like figure out if like Hopper would be thinking like it would be come to the conclusion that it would be one of like the three possibilities of like either Mike Lucas and thing possibly by now like by the time Hopper will be finding out about all this like Hopper so the thing along the line as if like maybe like Mike Lucas and Dustin along with like Jane by now possibly having gotten captured by Brenner and Sting, or like Mike Lucas and Dustin and Jane would be like still hiding somewhere in like the town of Hawkinson, like or and basically like Mike might have lied to his mother about like them leaving the country, or like Mike actually might have done exactly like he said through 11 like superpowers, and like Mike Lucas and Dustin along with like Jane like might have actually like left the country. It would be one of these three possibilities would be along the lines that of like a conclusion that Popper would be come to. So like I'm considering still Popper like totally trying as much as he can, he would be searching through like the town of Hawkins is like the for like Mike Lucas and like the scenario that I'm looking, but like that yielding no resistance. By then it would be like almost night time. So like at that point like Popper and like deciding to basically like at that point I was looking for maybe calling like Nancy and Jonathan, and basically and I was looking like for telling them to basically that basically for them to like basically go up to Murford Forest that night, that very night, and basically for them to like search for like the more stuff. So in like Murford Forest, it's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like at that point I was looking like as Johnson may be like trying to get that information from his mother Joyce, because like Johnson will be worried for like his mother getting into trouble. But like I was like Joyce totally not saying Jonathan sneaking out of this moment, Joyce following him, and that way like I was looking like eventually the all of them like basically eventually joining up in like eventually ending up joining up in like Murphy Corps, and searching them all together like searching for like the mods up in like Murphy Forest, and at that point I'm looking like by the time it will be like 8 o'clock, like I'm looking like the mods up will be showing up, but not from like the specific area where like the mods up had showed up the previous day. It's definitely my membership. The previous night is definitely my friends. It will be from a totally different tree in within Blackwood Forest, but from like a totally different tree, like a different location that like the monster will be like showing up out of like the water. It's like the scenario that I'm assuming that like that way like the monster that way most likely I'm assuming like scenario to be like for like the monster to totally show up from behind of like Jonathan and the as well as Black Panther as well as like Joyce. They will be like searching for like the monster in like the middle of the night in like not the forest, like the monster showing up from like the different direction in like not the forest, and basically attacking them, and possibly and like like the whole attack and noise of that attack happening, and basically during that like I'm setting the map of the generation that will be during, and during that time like actually my Lucas Luskin as well as Levin would be hiding in like Northwood Forest, and this attack and noise eventually and this whole attack by like the monster like I'm looking at this monster being so exceptionally strong, so like this whole attack eventually resulting in like uh like uh Mike hearing Nancy, his sister Nancy's voice, screaming voice, and Mike showing up to like showing up quickly rushing through the scene, and basically Mike getting attacked by the monster. 11 saving them, using 11 for power, like 11 saving them from like the monster, and that being like the moment, and the monster being, and that being like the moment where like Copper will be shockingly seeing like 11 or Jane, just like the scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm considering like Hopper feeling like so hopeful and like would be so hopeful and to be excited and joyful. But like right then itself, like all of the hopes like totally getting destroyed by like Brenner and his like entire thing, like showing up especially at that point before the Hopper and his team would be even able to like speak to like Mike and speak or 11 before that precisely like Brenner and Sender team like basically capturing all of them and attacking them and trapping them in like Brenner and available, which is like the scenario that I'm sitting on the frame. Okay, so then definitely the very impression right now with like do you find the like so quickly like realizing this like mistakes and basically even like turning against like Tommy and Carol, like basically calling them out on like their mistakes as well, and basically even picking up fights with like Tommy as well as Carol. Like I was for like with like Steve changed so much to like the side to like I'm like definitely I was like this eventually resulting in like I'm like eventually possibly in like the distant future like I'm like Steve eventually ending up dying to like save Nancy, like Steve totally risking his life to stop the monster while like in like most in like the monster would be about to take Nancy's life, like I'm also thinking like Steve sacrificing his life to save Nancy, and that way like the monster taking Steve's life is like an individual distant possible future scenario that I'm talking about that today and my government. And definitely about the point like it will be definitely from this point on definitely about the point like it will be definitely like Nancy and Jonathan that will be like like eventually falling into like a relationship and everything is definitely my brother. Steve about the point like was eventually definitely about the point without much delay at all like Steve totally like him realizing his mistake like Steve totally saying sorry to like Nancy and then was really like Nancy totally being able to like understand Steve is like the scenario that I'm describing. Still, I'm perceiving like eventually, definitely right now my considering versions at least Steve would like definitely eventually ending up dying by the monster is like the scenarios that I'm describing. For like the other possibility that I'm considering from the mind of the is definitely for like maybe like Steve without definitely I'm considering without delay at all like I'm considering the Steve uh like showing up and basically like telling a story to like Nancy and at that point I'm considering it's definitely for Nancy to tell Steve like tell that like he should even more than her like Steve would be telling sorry to like Jonathan specifically for all that extremely hurtful word that like Steve had talked about like not just Johnson's family, but like especially about like the still missing Johnson's brother, like and all that. So like that empathy like totally kind of like frustrating Steve. Nancy saying that to Steve like the scenario that I'm remembering, and that kind of like frustrating Steve and Steve being telling Nancy that he won't do that, and basically Steve in a divine manner like basically leaving just like the scenario that I'm observing. But still I'm like eventually in like the teaser I'm observing like Steve only sacrificing his life to like save Nancy and like right before Steve would be dying like would be when I'm observing like this Steve would be like exactly letting go finally letting go of this like ego towards like Jonathan and basically would be finally before he dies like Steve saying sorry to like Jonathan is like an eventual possible scenario that I'm observing on the program. Oh, yes, well, definitely I was very ambition right now with like only seeing like all the people of like foreigners being like basically leaving and taking things from like my home as well as like with like Hopper, Joyce, Jonathan as well as Nancy in like the car and Hopper like basically even telling Nancy that basically that they have to find them Mike Lucas Dustin before uh, before Brenner's team to like and basically it's the thought was like Hopper having seen like the helicopter as well. And that's why definitely like I'm like during this interaction within the car, like I'm looking at them or like totally coming to the conclusion that basically that Mike Lucas and Dustin would have definitely not left like the country, but like Mike Lucas and Dustin would have definitely would be hiding in like Margaret Forest, especially since like the helicopter like this is to like for like the helicopter to like still not be able to like find like Mike Lucas and Dustin definitely they would be like they would have decided to like hide in like Margaret Forest. Especially my favorite version. And definitely I'm going to bring like it will be most likely even through the interaction that I'm going to bring maybe like so like my best impression, but maybe through this like current interaction by with like Joyce, Hopper and like Nancy and Jonathan, I was been doing that interaction. Maybe like them figuring out that basically like that basically Mike Lucas and Dustin would be like actually might have been something for Bill and that time. It's also like about the episode, especially because of like Amazon like Hopper maybe Hopper and George maybe thinking along the lines as if like basically since like Jane have super human strength, like basically like there will be more reasons than just the superpower being cool alone for like Mike Lucas and Dustin like basically like spending so much time with like 11 might also be due to like George like maybe coming to the conclusion that might have been also due to like Jane possibly knowing that basically Bill is still alive and so like since like Mike Lucas and Dustin like Bill was like the best friend of like Mike Lucas and Dustin like they might have been this and that time might have been like just like Eleven's help with like Jane's help that they might have been trying to like find Bill basically Bill like maybe like them coming to such conclusions also like about into that and also Also like that kind of comprehension is for like maybe for like hopper or like Joyce coming to the conclusion that basically since like when they had disappeared like they been like bicycle was like basically found in like near to like Muscle Forest like this. So like, and there might have been like only evidence for like them having a ran through like Muslim forest. So definitely like maybe like them come to the conclusion that like the like so because of the reason like right before like Bill had gone missing like Bill had disappeared like Bill was in like Muslim forest like like maybe like Joyce as well as like George as well as like the Hopper maybe come to the conclusion that like maybe that's the monster might have chased like Will and basically like since like multiple forests have that importance like ambassador like maybe them come to the conclusion that like Mike Lucas and Dustin might be hiding in like multiple forests right now. Maybe like due to this reason and maybe also due to like maybe even Jonathan might be like Jonathan or like maybe even Joyce might be aware of like castle bios as well existing deep within like Mugwort Forest just definitely remember like as for like Mike Lucas and Dustin like definitely they might have like definitely the castle bios even existing deep within like the possibility perfectly due to like Mike Lucas and Dustin and Will having like in like the past created castle bios for like their private meetup between like Mike Lucas and Dustin and with for them to like meet up and basically with that absolute privacy and like play all their games and hang out and everything. So that's remember so like Mike Lucas and Dustin might even know their way around Mugwort Forest. So definitely necessary. So like collective so like I was thinking maybe like either Jonathan or something like Jonathan or like Joy might know about like acid bias like maybe existing within like I'm not report. So like maybe collectively all these reasons I'm just different like while I'm just different right now during the interaction like the car like I'm just collectively with all these reasons I'm just then all like finally coming to the conclusion that like right now the possibility would be for like Mike Lucas Dustin as well as like Jane possibly being present in like Northwest Walk. They would be hiding in like Northwest Walk, like basically them coming to such a conclusion. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. And since like the Northwest Walk was precisely where like Nancy and Jonathan had even seen the monster, like basically not Jonathan, but just since Nancy had seen the monster, like basically precisely because of this reason and since like by now it would be about to even turn the Liverpool women. So like I'm preferring like them for like Hopper, Joyce as well as like Nancy and Jonathan definitely like picking up that Hopper getting back that whole bear trap and everything from like the station, secretly taking out like that bear trap and everything from like the station and them all like heading over to still heading over to like Mudwood Falls, like the scenario that I'm preferring and then like and so like about when they would all be worried for like the kid because of like basically the monsters present in like muscle pops and everything. So they would be like like setting up the traps and like they would be like like them or like something and when muscle pops would be seriously huge just definitely so like them all setting up the traps and basically like them even searching for like Michael percent of it or like nothing for like the scenario that I'm considering. But like by the time they will be all doing that, like by the time by then it will be like could have all already turned dark and it will be like nearing to like 8 o'clock. It's anywhere the minute. So like once it's like 8 o'clock, I'm considering like some monster showing up and like the whole thing was like the monster usually being taken down by 11 and basically them all at that point while them all will be seeing each other like being captured by Brenner and his team and basically like take person getting in person like Brenner and like the scenario that I'm preparing and right now I'm not preparing version. Okay, so like continuing to preparing version right now with like according to like Johnson's idea like then all something Johnson's phone for like the radio phone and right now with like Joyce finding especially finding like the radio phone for precisely under like the bed like I was this might have been definitely what like will earlier like when like Mike's mother as well as like Mike's little sister had basically showed up to like Will's home like basically to speak to like when Mike's mother had showed us to like Will's home to like basically speak to like Joyce like Will's mother like at that point like basically Mike's sister little sister being led to like the specific room through like the light bulb like basically through the fairy light or like the light bulb like turning on like one by one like basically that way like leading mics to like little sister to that specific room. Might have been this exact room where like beneath the bed there might have been like the radio phone, especially by the reimbursement that was being on. So like spells back then might have been trying to like get my sister to like find like the radio phone so that like that way like we might have been able to like communicate with like that way we might have been able to communicate with like Will's mother without having like the powers of like the monster like really from like the barrel world like totally destroying in like for electrical gadgets, especially my the temperature. So since it's like a radio phone like without wires like anything like so definitely like the communication might have been possible. So like to get that radio phone to like Will's mother might have been like what Will might have been attempting that, but it's definitely not the same. And Will might not be that even while Will has communicated with like this mother even before through like the fairy lights like like it would be extremely hard. Like his friend it would be like from like the battle world into communicating with like his mother. Like it would be like so extremely hard because like always like there would be that monster nearby. Who's definitely like the battle world near this will definitely member friend. So like Will might have like the task of like basically ensuring to like not have like the monster find Will out or like capture Will while at the same time to like stealthily communicate with like his mother. So like this might be the reason for like Will not having like done like the same thing with like the light indication lead and that way not having like being able to like lead with with mother to like that radio phone just the limits of the emission. So maybe even that might have been like Will trying to like get the attention of Will's mother, but like I'm from back then like since like Will's mother was talking to like Mike's mother and she might have not noticed that those like blinking one after another remember the emission. So when Will got the chance to like basically once again communicate, like that might be the point when like Will might have done that, and then also it might have at that point it might have been only Mike's little sister alone that might have noticed it, and basically that might have been what Will might have been attempting to like get that radio phone to like Will's mother might have been what Will might have been attempting back then through like the lights. It's definitely my first impression, and definitely not to bring the that like Will would be definitely having like a spare radio phone. That things it's definitely never the which he might have only taken with him and put it into his pocket like before like he got abducted by like the monster like right before that like Will might have since Will has like a high IQ like definitely Will might have smartly thought of like basically picking up like the spare radio phone and basically he might have put one on his back pocket before like he might have he got abducted by like the alien by the monster might have been what might have happened. So it's definitely my contribution. So like to communicate from like the back to be able for Will to be able to like try to like attempt to like communicate from like the parent, but using like the radio phone might be the best reason for like Will even having done all that. So the lights like basically all that is certainly my contribution. Yeah, so like definitely one of the impression right now with like Mike straight away like setting like the radio phone communication from like Nancy and Papa being like the bad man and his team like basically like ultimate transport like Mike and his like friends like they listen to like Mike is like suspecting such a possibility. I'm also like definitely Mike right now I'm just definitely not picking up like the radio phones like the scenario that I'm doing. But like my birthday impression that definitely thought like might still like not pick up like the radio phone, but still I'm both different like definitely like Hopper and his team like Hopper, the team of like Hopper, Joyce, Nancy, and Jonathan eventually definitely coming to the conclusion that like they will be organically hiding in that Murphy Forest and them definitely heading off to Murphy Forest like Mike and his friends as well as like Hopper and his team as well. Like they'll be heading off to like Murphy Forest and then that very night itself, and also like them not only running into each other in like Marvel balls, but like them also running to the monster as well as like them eventually running into like Brenner and his team as well. All this like collectively happening on a single night. And that's interesting. And it will be this very night and on like probably the location of Marvel Ball. It's like my documentation that I'm sitting on. Okay, so let's definitely the Victorian culture right now with like my KM, like the radio phone, like and definitely something like right now for like for telling Mike to basically stay put wherever they are heading, like to stay put and wait until it's like night time. Like it will definitely be like the decision of Hopper. That exactly would be like the decision of Hopper. Like Hopper, I'm assuming right now is not decided to like go to the precise location where like Mike and his friends will be because of like the extreme surveillance with like the whole helicopter and everything. So like I'm looking like Hopper telling my kind of friends to like it's basically like he would like number different like Hopper asking them like as to like where probably they are hiding. So like Mike totally revealing that to like Hopper. And basically like Hopper telling Mike and basically like Mike would be like trusting or like I'm assuming it might have been right now for like Mike to even pick up and answer like with the delay like right now with like Mike answering Hopper like I'm assuming the reason might even be like 11's definitely not the premise because of like 11's like telepathic powers like maybe like 11 might have used her powers and might have like using her powers might have been able to sense that basically like the call was like the radio call through the radio phone was like a genuine call and not a trap. So like that might be the reason for like Mike right now even picking up like the call from Hopper. So also like about that I'm about so like with that so like I'm assuming like Mike even telling Hopper like where exactly they are right now. So like I'm assuming like Hopper like would be like knowing that place and Hopper telling to like Mike to like to totally stay put and hide in that bus. And basically that like wait until it's night time and about like Hopper Jonathan the team of like Hopper Jonathan Nancy and Joyce like waiting for it to turn dark so that like at that point for them to like with that absolute sense, like for them to like basically pick up Mike Dustin Lucas and 11 it's like the scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm considering like uh, that so like I'm considering like once it turns dark like I'm considering like Hopper and team like basically going up to that particular location and basically picking up Dustin Lucas and Mike and 11. So like at that point, like Hopper, like totally seeing like Jane, totally like being shocked, but like basically that like at seeing Jane like 11, like basically that whole like this like investigation and everything at least like finally has found an actual proper subject with like him being like finally save and find like 11. So like that's like Jane, like the scenario that I was reading. So like Hopper as well as like Will's mother, like that would be like finding 11 and seeing 11 like would be then giving that absolute hope for like Will's mother. It would be definitely like a boost to like Will's mother's like hope, Joyce's hope that she will eventually be able to like find Will. Exactly like right now how Hopper has found them all have right now found at that point would have found like Jane just like the scenario that I'm doing. So like them all getting onto the car like Mike represent as well as like Jane like basically switching and basically like into the car and basically them all getting into the car and then looking like Hopper deciding to like leave the town of Hawkins that very night like the scenario that I was doing. That would be like Hopper's plan for like the time being to like leave the town of Hawkins and for then for them to like replace this and to figure out what to do next or like for like maybe like I'm considering like most likely Terry Ives where Terry Ives would be like living would be like her home would be like outside of the town of Hawkins. It's definitely one of the famous. So like I'm considering maybe Hopper come to the decision to like basically leave the town of leave the town of Hawkins and straight away go up to Terry Ives' home and basically like that would be like Hopper's plans like the scenario that I'm looking like. So like on their way like as they would be like like as like Hopper would be driving the car like I'm looking like they would have to like pass through the roads would be passing through the sides of like Muslim forests like the scenario that I'm looking. But like I'm looking by the time they would be reaching near to like Muslim forest like I'm looking them being stopped by a bunch of vans and that would be like once again Brenner's team. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. So at that point, I was bring like all of them, like Hopper and all of them, like basically quickly getting out of the car and basically quickly running into like Sutwood Forest to like escape from the banner and the scene of like the scenario that I'm doing. They're totally running and it would be like nighttime and it would be exactly almost like 8 o'clock or something. So like I'm looking like Hopper and all of them like basically running deep into like Sutwood Forest and they are like I'm looking like them totally running into like the monster, like them all together running into like the monster, like the scenario that I'm within like the multiverse. And like the monster would Ambassador like straight away like attacking them and like the monster like capturing Mike is like the scenario that Ambassador and Ambassador like maybe 11 using her superpowers yet like Ambassador like the monster still weak so extremely strong that like the monster still maybe fighting back and Ambassador by then like 11 would be like thoroughly exhausted with like 11 having like kind of like having like used her superpowers at like short frequency Ambassador in a repeated manner, like improving 11 possibly being a first concept that like everyone would be like so extremely tired and maybe might even go unconscious at that or would be like almost like going unconscious and would be extremely tired. So like right then like the monster people want to again even Hopper and all some like basically getting injured and like the then like I'm like the monster like capturing Mike and basically affecting dragging Mike into that portal. It's like the on the trees like the scenario that I'm that way them all witnessing like might getting dragged into like that portal in the tree and like right then I'm also like Brenner and his like team would be like slowly catching up to them and they'll be hearing like the noise of Brenner and his team like slowly catching up to them. So like at that point I'm thinking like Hopper and all of them like deciding to like leave through that portal straight away. And even more than that, especially to like save Mike, like I'm thinking like all of them like totally running into and entering into that portal on the tree before it closes and everything that way like Hopper and Hopper, Jonathan, Nancy, Joyce, Mike, Lucas, Dustin, as well as 11 like all of them entering into like the other side like into like the parallel dimension through like the portal industry and precisely while Brenner and his team would be making it to that location within like multiple portals, like by then like precisely like the portal in the tree will be precisely getting closed. So like under the runner basically searching around and not being able to like find Mike and those it's like the other possible scenarios that I'm assuming while all of them would have already made to like the parallel dimension and like they are like I'm like proper like quickly chasing after like the monster and I'm Hopper somehow managing to like save my just like the scenario from like the monster like the scenario that I'm doing and them all like running away in like the parallel world and like them all hiding somewhere in like the parallel world of like the scenario that I'm doing. And then I got the impression that like by this time like I'm considering like Abraham and 15 might not only seen like not only Hopper but also Nancy like Jonathan as well as Joy is definitely the face of the definitely might have same like so definitely like Hopper and considering all of them like at that point deciding to like basically stay in like the parallel world as like a team and basically to like basically search for now that they have at that point they would have made it through like the parallel world. So also like the parallel dimension like I'm with them deciding to like basically to like explore not explore but to search for like Will and Barbara in like the parallel world at that point. So like them totally initially like hiding away from like the monster of like the parallel world after saving Mike and then like them like how making it like strategies to like as like how to the as like how they should like move from that point on like make their move from that point on to like their first to like find Will find and save Will as well as Barbara. So like with that determination, like that absolute determination, like them beginning like the whole search for like Will and Barbara together in like the parallel world and like journey beginning in like the parallel world, like the eventual scenarios that I'm going to bring in the temperature. Also, definitely my personal impression that like definitely Tommy and Carol definitely might have been definitely seriously affected by like Steve's like the fight they had with like Steve before like Steve left the it's definitely my personal impression. Like Steve is that might have been like a great shock to like Tommy and Carol and might have totally affected them. That empathy protecting actually for like Tommy as well as Carol as well. Their characters will changing and basically them as well eventually turning to like the side of good and like them eventually Ambassador like them Ambassador Tommy and Carol to like eventually find Steve and basically go up to Steve and basically for like Tommy as well as Carol to like totally apologize to Steve for like getting the scenario that Ambassador and that way like eventually Tommy as well as Carol turning to the side of good and like being front to like Steve is like the scenarios that Ambassador and yeah like I'm strictly to my birthday impression definitely for like Steve to definitely eventually die while trying to like protect Nancy from like the monster it's like the scenario that I'm looking for. It's just the future scenario that I'm looking for very much. Okay, so like definitely the pre-impression right now with like Brenner's team right now showing up to like the location where exactly Mike with the end of 10 and 11 are hiding like and so like it will be especially because of that my super impressions that it so it won't be just like the high power like the radio at like the hosting school alone that like Brenner and his team will be like totally doing like the surveillance in but like I'm thinking they would be also like spy be able to like have such a huge setup that they can Brenner and team might be also spying on like tapping like the radio frequencies of even like each of like the tiny radio phones all across like the down south as well. You definitely have that way like I'm just like they might not only heard of like the interaction between like Mike Lucas Dustin as well as like Hopper is definitely going to impression. So right now definitely my third impression definitely for like Mike Lucas and Dustin definitely getting captured. It's like the scenario that is for thing, especially with like one of like Runner men having even seen like the bicycle kept hidden under the bus like definitely was like definitely right now them being like totally attacked by 11. It's like the scenario as like they would be trying to like catch up like Mike Lucas and Dustin and 11. It's like the scenario that I'm also bringing. But still I'm also bringing like it's like it is like Brenner team thinks Brenner knows like 11's like superpowers like farm too well. I'm also bringing like the initial 3 member team would be like definitely a decoy. It's definitely member to emergence sent by Brenner so that like Mike Lucas and Dustin that would be like they would be totally a lure set to like essentially trap Mike Lucas Dustin and 11 is definitely Mike Lucas Richard. So like the trap for 11 would be already set and in that precise location and basically like the 3 men that have showed up to that location would be like the only would be like a total decoy definitely Mike Lucas to lure 11 to into like falling into that trap like the scenario that I'm looking. So like the Liverpool Premier League right now with only just 3 men showing up to that location. And was delivering definitely Brenner this time would be well fully prepared, but like a strap to like basically capture 11 that I'm also bring like time 11 as well as like Mike Lucas and the thing totally getting captured and abducted by Brenner and Stein and brought to like Brenner's lab. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm hoping like by the time like for Hopper, Jonathan, Nancy and Joyce would be able to like make it to that location by then like I'm like Mike Lucas Weston and 11 all of them would have already been taken away by Brenner and his team and would be it's definitely a good impression.